Welcome to Spice. I'm Shirley Desai, the founder and host of Spice, which stands for South Asian and Global Perspectives in Cinema and Entertainment. I have a great guest with us today. She and I go back more than 15 years to the Peninsula Symphony days when she was the assistant conductor and I was a violinist. And her name is Jessica Bahirano. She is now the founder and music director of the San Francisco Philharmonic, a curator and scholar in residence with the San Francisco Opera, a cover conductor with the San Francisco Symphony, and a keynote speaker for the Stanford Healthcare. She also serves on the boards of the Association of California Symphony Orchestras and the International Conductors Guild. Her work has been featured on NBC's Today Show, PBS NewsHour, and she was named one of 10 artists to watch by KQED. Jessica has led groundbreaking collaborations, including Tecate Alta's urban Latino symphonic performance, a special appearance with Journey at the Chase Center, and a recent crossover concert with rapper Andre Nikitana. Internationally, she has guest conducted in Russia, Italy, Romania, Bulgaria, the Czech Republic, Spain, Venezuela, and throughout the United States. She is also a sought-after motivational speaker for arts organizations, companies, and schools. Jessica holds degrees from UC Davis, the University of Wyoming, and Casper College. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Well, it's an honor to interview you. You've had an incredible experience. In the past 15 years, what has been the one thing that has changed and you felt like has evolved?
So over the past 15 years, I've been a professional conductor here in the States and abroad. And one of the biggest transformations, the biggest things that I've accomplished within those past 15 years is being a founder of my own orchestra. Before I'd be hired as music director or as an assistant conductor, or I would be contracted, as a guest artist. But building your own orchestra, oh my goodness, there's just so much work and dedication and focus and energy that needs to go into building your own orchestra, your own brand, your own company, essentially, your own 501c3. And I had no idea how demanding it would be. But it's been the biggest challenge, one of the biggest challenges. But I wouldn't change it for the world. I've grown so much musically, but I've also grown as an administrator because there's so much that I need to do on the administrative side of running an organization.
So how did this come to being? Did you just wake up one day and say, San Francisco needs this, I want to do this? Or how did everything kind of come together?
Right. So I was actually flying back from Bulgaria. I had just finished conducting the Star Zagor State Opera House. I was the resident assistant conductor there. And I was flying back and just thinking about all my experiences, not only in Bulgaria, but, being a female conductor, a woman of color conductor, whether it was abroad or here in the States, and how challenging it is, how it always felt like I was swimming against the tide, trying to get to the next level, trying to get to the next engagement, trying to get the next position, the next job. It was difficult. It was really hard, and it still is. Women are less than 3% of the population as far as music directors and conductors are concerned.
3%?
And we are less than 3% of the population when it comes to that field. And so instead of having my career and my passion and my future be in the hands of others, I wanted it to be in my hands. And so I created my own destiny. I created an orchestra where being a female of color is celebrated, and you can be a leader and you can lead, where it's a great and wonderful thing, and not like, an oddity, or, or you're, not at the standard, or you can't be at the greatness of others. So that was one of the reasons why I built the SF Philharmonic, my own orchestra, is to really celebrate the inclusion of women, on the podium, and all people on the podium.
That's awesome. But just wondering, but just wondering, What were the sort of the initial steps you had to go through to start the SF Philharmonic?
Yes. So when I was in college, they don't teach you how to build your own orchestra. There's no
Yeah.
book, there's no course.
No,
And yeah, there's no book that I knew at that moment, at that time. I was literally on a plane. So I just had what I had with me, which was a bunch of conducting scores, whatever I conducted that summer. I just, from my experience as a conductor, I was thinking about things that worked and things that didn't work and how to make those things work with my orchestra. I thought about my team. I need a board. So I need to get all my friends together to create a board of directors, but not just any friend, like friends that have different strengths. So a friend that's like into PR and marketing, a friend that's into personnel, a friend that's about management and promotion, so every friend had a strength of some sort. And that friend was invited to join the board. So I'm on this flight and I'm thinking about get a board of directors together. You have to find a rehearsal venue. You have to find a performance venue. Funding, how are you going to fund it? You're going to have to fund it yourself. So the first concert, I funded everything out of my own pocket. I went into my savings and invested everything into, the orchestra. So literally it was a napkin on my flight, just taking all these notes and different things I need to consider so that when I land, off we go. And sure enough, I landed. Then the next day, I had my group of friends together and we had our first board meeting.
Oh, that's such an incredible story.
It was very fast. It was very fast. This happened at the end of August, and we were incorporated as an official 501c3 by November, December, so 2019. And then by February 3rd, 2020, we had our inaugural concert.
Wow.
It moved pretty fast.
What's the most challenging part of being a conductor in the orchestra?
The most challenging part about being a conductor is managing so many different people. You want to make everyone happy, right? But you have 85 people, and different people from all different walks of life and all different types of talent. And so you want to bring them all together as one to create one beautiful sound, one beautiful piece of music ready for performance. So to get everyone to come together to emote that one emotion, whatever that emotion may be in the music, whether it's an allegro, a beautiful, happy sound, or something lento, triste, something sad and melancholy, you have to find a way to bring 85 people to feel that same emotion, right? And so as a conductor, you have to know how to bring these intense, emotional, deep feelings out of people and have them play that through their instrument. So you have to be very inspirational. And it's not just about beating a stick and doing this. It's about really connecting deeply into a human being and extracting the most out of them.
A lot of people always ask me, what exactly does a conductor do? Because I say they do everything.
Good answer. Good answer. I like that.
So when you step into the podium, you're not just guiding musicians, you're guiding emotion and energy.
Mhm.
How do you think about music in a leadership in a musical context? And how has that philosophy evolved?
How do I think about music and in leadership?
Yeah.
As a conductor, we are literally on a box above everyone else. We're on a podium, right? And so it seems visually like there's this hierarchy, this authoritative environment. But for me, I don't want to exude that. I don't want to lead with a heavy hand and demand and insist. Instead, I want to inspire and motivate. And when you inspire and motivate, you get the most out of your musicians. So even though I stand on a podium, on a box, I try to make myself accessible and at the same level with them and not above them. And so that's my philosophy is to really know how to inspire your musicians. And one of the best ways to really inspire through music and leadership is knowing the music very well, right? You have to know what you do as far as what does the music call for, having good technique, with your baton in your hand, but passion, but being passionate about the music is just so powerful, because if you love the music, if you're knowledgeable about the music and you emote that with how you run the rehearsal, how you move your body, how you connect with your musicians, with eye contact, they're going to feel that. They're really going to feel that. And then they're going to give that back to you. And that's wonderful leadership when they're wanting to be with you and not forced to be with you.
That's very true. You've conducted in so many places like Italy, Russia, Spain, Venezuela, the Czech Republic, and across the US. How did working internationally shape your approach to and your identity as a conductor?
That's a great question. The first country that I went to conduct in was St. Petersburg, Russia. And even though I was there for an entire summer, I don't know a lot of Russian. I know small words here and there, but not knowing the language and being in front of an orchestra really forces you as a conductor to use your gesture, to use your eyes, to use your body to ask of your musicians what you want from them. And that's what makes a great conductor, is if you can show it and not just stand there and say it, say it, say it, say it, say it, right? You don't want to waste time. You want to be efficient with your time, with their time. You want to be respectful, and you want to get a lot of work done, right? And so if you just stand there as a conductor and talk, you're going to lose the orchestra,
Yeah.
right? So a great conductor is very efficient with gesture. So when I've traveled abroad and I don't know the language, I am forced to really use my gesture. That's all I have, because I don't know their language.
And how has that worked for you internationally?
It's worked as in, it's made me a stronger conductor. It's made me a stronger technician. It's allowed me to really hone, my skills and my gesture and awareness of body. As a conductor, we tend to have a lot of repeated, motions or ticks or words that we're not aware of. But when you really, there's so many things that we have to take care of. You're taking care of your musicians. You're looking at the score. You're taking care of your gesture. You have to be self-aware of what there's so many things we have to listen, what to anticipate for. Oh, what you didn't anticipate for and just happened. How do you think? There's a lot going on, so just internationally, it just made me more aware of how to be a very sensitive, in tune conductor, not just with the musicians and the music, but also within myself and my body.
How would you compare your international experiences conducting with your US-based differences? Are the musicians, I'm overgeneralizing because every country and every location is different, but do they tend to respond the same way musically for your conducting?
Musicians, whether it's abroad or here in the States, they know when a conductor is prepared and when a conductor is not prepared. So, it's not like you can go to Italy and be like, oh, like they are more aware than, American musicians as far as, the music making or the conductor or the gesture. Um, eh, eh, Across the world, musicians know, they can sense a conductor, whether they're prepared or they're not prepared. And whatever energy that conductor gives them, they're going to give back to you.
Great.
So no big difference. Wherever you conduct, you don't change gesture, or I don't change gesture. I don't change approach. The only thing I change is from composer to composer, because every piece and every composer asks for different things.
I see.
But the musicians all need the same thing. Now, if you're talking about like levels of orchestra, you have professional orchestras, you have municipal orchestras, you have community orchestras, you have collegiate orchestras, you have, those types of orchestras, they need a different approach.
I see.
But across the world, like if you're working with professional orchestras, I would say it's the same approach.
Same approach. That's good to know.
Mhm.
Can you tell us about a moment when everything aligned perfectly during a performance, and then a moment when it was completely the opposite, where everything fell apart?
When everything aligns, and I don't want to say there was just like this one moment where everything aligned. There's many moments where everything aligns. Um, it's this incredible like outer body feeling where you have the best seat in the house and you're just having all this beautiful luscious music coming at you, and you're not just hearing it, you're feeling it. And it's beautiful, but at the same time you're like, okay, I'm still conducting, like I have I can't just melt into the moment, I have to keep working, I have to keep moving and inspiring. But my musicians, the audience can't see me obviously because they're behind me. But my musicians know like when something really clicks, like, and my performances are recorded from this side and from the back side.
Okay.
And I watch just so that I can see, what I've done and what I need to still work on. Because there's always room for improvement, no matter how many years you've been doing this line of work. But anyhow, um, I think like the moment where I know and my musicians know that everything's just like when that happens, an instant smile just like ignites on my face. It's just like my face just lights up and I smile when that happens, and it happens like very, very, very often. And it's okay. It's okay to give that facial reinforcement to your orchestra.
It reminds me when I first started at the Peninsula Symphony, I felt like one of the luckiest people because I heard all the instruments playing and they were playing so beautifully. And I totally understand where you're coming from with that feeling of magic that comes from great music.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. I've had it with, with guest soloists too, where, it's just like the momentum, the energy, the intensity. It's just like every rehearsal, it should get better and better and better, and more polished into performance mode, right? And then finally when you're in performance, it should be the apex of it all. It should be like, and when it is the apex of it all, it's just like, you know. A moment where things really didn't line up. Um, it's not that things didn't line up, and this kind of goes with a moment where things were actually pretty amazing. And it was with Peninsula Symphony. I believe you were playing that concert set. We were doing the Elgar Cockaigne Overture, which is like a 20-minute like tone poem. And it's very like episodic, where it's like, okay, right now we're like in a solemn church, and then now the music is jumping to like kids running around in the playground, and now the music's jumping to two lovers sitting on a bench, in the park in London, and so the tempos, the energy, the timbre of sound, the color, it's constantly changing. And so it's one of those scores while I was conducting that, I score study a lot. I spend many hours score studying. But it's one of those scores where you just don't start the piece and off we go. It's just like it's changing throughout, and a lot. And so we were in performance, and we were probably a third into the beginning of the piece, and I turned my page, my conductor score, I turned the page, and when I turned the page, the score fell off the music stand and it landed on the floor in front of the concertmaster, the first violin. And I remember like having my heart sink, like, oh my God, like out of all pieces, to have the score fall off the podium
Yeah.
during a concert, not this one, because I thought I didn't have it memorized.
Yeah.
I never try to conduct from memory. And so it was just this feeling of like, oh my God, like fear, absolute fear. And I saw my concertmaster and all my first stand string players. I saw the fear in their eyes because they saw it happen for sure. I saw the fear in their eyes. And so in that moment, I was just like, it's going to fall apart any minute now. And I've never had that happen to me before. And I was just waiting for it. But I was just like using my memory for what I did know in the seconds to come. And I looked at their faces and I saw the fear. And in that moment, as a leader, I was just like, I was like, instill confidence in them, take that fear away from them. And so I just kept moving my baton, and I gave them a little smile, like everything's going to be okay. Even though inside I was like, it's not going to be okay. It's not going to be okay. But I just like instilled confidence in them, and, they kept playing, And I kept conducting and I kept conducting. And, 17 minutes later, we get to the final chord and it was this beautiful performance. And I was just like, oh my God, so it was this moment of fear and like, we're going to fail. I'm going to fail. But it turned into a victorious moment.
Concert, yeah.
Yeah, because I had studied so much that in my study, I actually memorized it. And I didn't realize that I memorized it. I don't study to memorize. I study to internalize.
I see.
Yeah. And so I remember during intermission when we were all backstage, a lot of the string players, especially the front stand of string players, because they saw it happen, they came up to me and they gave me a hug. They're like, "Oh, Jessica." You're like, "Oh." I was like, I know. So yeah, when the two moments collide, when it's a great moment and everything lines up, but also like a moment where you're like, oh my God, it's gonna fall apart. All in one.
All in one.
All in one.
Trying to shift gears a little bit. If you could design a musical curriculum for children, what would you want what would be something you'd absolutely like to see?
In music curriculum, we teach kids, we teach them, how to be an instrumentalist, how to play the flute, the clarinet, the violin, the trumpet. And that's great. They need to learn how to read music. They need to learn how to sing, and then eventually they'll learn an instrument, or maybe they'll learn all that while they're starting on an instrument, or the recorder. But one thing they don't teach kids is how to conduct, how to be a little conductor. And I remember, I'm not gonna name the name of the orchestra, but as assistant conductor to that orchestra, my job was to conduct the family concert, and so I had to create a children's concert that was engaging, innovative, fun, and educational. And so it wasn't like, you conduct and that's it. Like, you have to engage the audience, you have to engage the kids. And there's a narrative and, start and stop, showcase the orchestra, certain sections,
Yeah.
The different family of instruments. And so I created a narrative and I share it with my music director. And there was this moment in the concert where I wanted to invite a little kid to come conduct a snippet of a movement of a symphony. So maybe like a minute of a symphony. And so I was going to invite, a little kid from the audience, come conduct. And of course I would coach them, how to conduct, and they would, off they would go and conduct. And my music director said, absolutely not. You will not do that. No kid is going to come up on stage and conduct my orchestra and embarrass them and make them look horrible. I was like, no, but I'll be there with the kid and I'll coach them and it'll be fine. It'll be a wonderful experience for the child. The audience will love it. The musicians will love it. He's like, absolutely not. You will not do that. No, you can't. I'm like, okay. I did it anyway. When the concert started, he was sitting up in the audience, and when the concert started, I looked at the audience and I said, all right, next, we are going to, conduct a little bit of Hector Berlioz' Symphony Fantastique, the March to the Scaffold. Who wants to conduct? And all these little hands go up in the air, all these little excited hands. And I just picked one random kid, and he ran down and, and I can see, my maestro up there. He wasn't too happy. But, and so I coached this little kid, just basic, gesture of how to conduct. And he conducted, the end of the fourth movement of, the Scaffold March. And it was electric. It was amazing. He did wonderful. The orchestra loved it. The audience loved it. And it was a moment where you have to believe in yourself when other people don't believe in you and still push forward. And I'm glad I did, because when Maestro told me no, in my mind, I said, yes, I'm going to do it. And after the concert, Maestro came up to me and I was like, oh, here it comes. And he just looked at me and he's like, that was really great. Congratulations. And he turned around and walked away. And I was like, woo. Yeah. So you see, like, kids don't get that music education perspective of how to be a little conductor, how to be a leader, how to use your body and coordinate your body with movements and listening, and watching. And, like, there's a lot that's happening there, not just listening, but also leading, guiding, inspiring others. Like, they should be learning that stuff as little kids, and they can. being a conductor, like conducting curriculum, it's not even at the undergraduate level. Conducting programs start at the master's level.
Right.
It's like, so what would I do with like little kid curriculum? Let's start it there. Let's start, little kid curriculum.
Little conductor.
Yeah. And when they start music in third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade.
I think that would help. I mean, a lot of people join bands and they do all kinds of different things in music. And I think the conducting experience would help.
Yeah, it teaches a lot. It teaches absolutely a lot.
Yeah. Great. If someone knows nothing about classical music, what music or steps would you suggest people follow to feel the true beauty within it?
If no one knows anything
Yeah,
about
if somebody
classical
does.
music, well, I'm hoping, teachers, at the elementary, middle school, high school level are going to embed that into the curriculum, because it starts with the little ones. Like they need exposure of that sort of stuff when they're little, so that when they're growing up, it's just something that they already know that they're exposed to. But as an adult, as a conductor, for me, and part of my mission is making it accessible. And the way for me to make it accessible is to be present, to do the work that I do, to stand on that podium. When I stand on that podium, people see me and they're like, oh, she looks like us, or we look like her.
Yeah.
And then it becomes like a safe place for them to walk into and to sit and to enjoy a concert, whether they know the music or not. So that's the start, right? Is like inviting them in and making them feel like they're welcome and they belong there. Once they're there in the space, conducting the music, maybe like talking a little bit with, pre-concert lecture, or saying a little bit about the pieces before you conduct them. That's always good, so that they have something to listen for, something to hook on to while they're enjoying while they're listening to the concert and hopefully enjoying the concert. But yeah, I don't hope and pray that people are going to walk into my concert hall who have never been to a classical symphony concert. I go out there and I find them and I bring them in. I invite them. I work a lot with the Mexican consulate here. And we have a partnership where we invite, that part of the community into the concert hall. I work with a lot of different underserved schools that don't have music programs or don't have big music programs or established music programs. We give those kids free tickets, and by bringing those kids into the concert hall, we're also bringing their parents into the concert hall, and most times their parents have never been exposed to that stuff either. So
how has the reaction been for someone that you bring in that hasn't had exposure? Do they really get it, or do they feel like or
well, we don't survey them right after the concert.
Yeah.
So I don't know right off the bat. But we should start serving like send a survey and get some feedback. But we have a lot of repeat people that come back, a lot of repeat students that come back. So if they're coming back, that must be a really good thing.
Well, I'm sure it's just an eye-opening experience. If you haven't been to a classical music concert and then you go to one, then I think it's just a great opportunity to grow as a person.
Oh, absolutely. It really is. Yeah. It's not just sound. It's vibrations. It's like real living vibrations in the room.
Right. Okay. In 2019, the Today Show highlighted you as a woman breaking barriers. What did that visibility mean to you personally, and what impact do you hope it has for younger musicians?
Yeah, the Today Show with Natalie Morales. That was an honor. That was a true honor. The reason why I did that interview with the Today Show is because I was invited to be the guest conductor for the American Youth Symphony, which is like when they existed, they were the premier youth orchestra of this country. They were founded back in the 70s, and just a wonderful, wonderful orchestra. And so I was invited to guest conduct them. And then a part of that was to do the interview with Natalie Morales in the Today Show. And one of the things that happened right before the concert started, so I rehearsed the orchestra. I was going to do the opening piece, Shostakovich's Festive Overture. So I was going to conduct the overture, and then the music director conducted the rest of the concert. And so I rehearsed the orchestra for a few days, and then it's showtime. It's the concert. The orchestra's on stage. They're all, fiddling around, waiting for the concert to start. The audience is coming in, and I'm backstage in the wing with the music director and the executive director. And the executive director tells me, and the music director, she's like, I'm going to tell you something right now backstage before you hear me say it to the audience, because she gives an audience address. She welcomes them as the ED, executive director. She goes, I want you to hear it from my mouth before you hear me say it to the audience. And I'm like, oh, dear God, what is she going to tell us? What's going on? And she's like, I've done my research. I've talked to board members. I've talked to past board members. I've looked at the archives. She goes, and literally tonight is the first night in the history of the American Youth Symphony that a woman is going to conduct it. And it was 2019. I was just like, oh my God, what an honor. What an honor. I'm the first of this prestigious youth orchestra. But then I also was just like, wait, what? I'm the first? They've been around since the 1960s. Why am I the first? Like, it's 2019. Like, why weren't there so many more before me? So it was kind of like this feeling like, oh my God, what an honor. Wait, what?
Yeah.
What an honor. Really? And so it was, at the end of the day, it was still an honor. But it just really kind of, reinforced that we still have a lot of work to do. And so I think part of, the story with Natalie Morales and the Today Show is about breaking barriers. And we broke a barrier that night, by allowing me to conduct a major institution. And so it's not the ceiling's not broken. As we say, female conductors, it's shattered right now, but it's not broken yet. So
we need step 1 before we can get to step 2. So
yeah. For us, it's moving very slowly, but it is moving. So we just have to, focus on that change and help propel it and move it along.
well, I think your idea, I mean, getting children educated in conducting from a young age, getting young girls and boys interested in conducting goes a long way. And hopefully we can move that 3% woman percentage you were citing
To 50%, 51%.
51%. Yeah, that would be really something.
Yeah, I mean, if you normalize it, by starting, little conductors and teaching them how to be little conductors when they're tiny, but you teach, both male, female, non-gender conforming children to be little conductors and get them excited about that. Then you normalize it so that when they're 18, 19, they have a trajectory of like, oh, I want to be a conductor, just as normal as it would be for someone to be like, oh, I want to be an engineer, or I want to be a scientist, or I want to be a school teacher. You normalize it and not have it be something so like, whoa, that's unique. Like, you want to become a conductor. Like, who does that, So, yeah, normalize it.
Okay, we're going to shift genres a little bit. You've done some groundbreaking crossover projects. The Tecate Alta performance, the collaboration with Journey, and your work with the legendary rapper Andre Nikitana. Can you describe those experiences?
Yes. So Tecate Alta, when they reached out to me, they reached out through, I believe it was like LinkedIn, and I didn't think it was real. So I was like, why don't we meet over Zoom and talk about this? And they had a whole team. They had a huge team. And they're like, this is what we want to do. We want to invite, like Latin pop artists, and we want to hire, a composer, arranger to rearrange their music for full orchestra. So it's a celebration of these Latin voices, meet symphonic orchestra, with a conductor like yourself, that's Mexican American, to just have this coming together of different cultures, different, cross, genres, and having it all be, one performance under one roof. So it was an incredible project. It was so much fun from the inception to the end. It was an incredible journey, which I'll talk about them in a minute. But it was a lot of work. A lot of people were involved. It was a great team. It was led by Remezcla, who is like one of the premier Latin companies that does a lot of promotional work and events. And then and it was Remezcla, it was Tecate, and then it was San Francisco Philharmonic. So the mission was beautiful, and it was extremely successful. I absolutely enjoyed it, and it was also an opportunity to really celebrate, my culture and my heritage and my family, and where my mom came from, Mexico. She only had an eighth grade education and immigrated over here and, worked 3 jobs, to support, our little family. It was just my mom, my brother, my little sister, and me. She worked, at a Toys R Us, like stocking, like shelves. She was a hamburger, she worked at a hamburger joint flipping burgers, and she also was a custodian at a casino. So she did a lot and sacrificed a lot to give us, what we needed. And so to be in a position to be a conductor and to celebrate, like, the Mexican, like flavor and heritage and music was for me like an honor and like a
Could be a dream come
homage
true.
and like a homage to my mother, like
Yeah.
so that her work and her struggles did not go in vain. So I felt in a way I was celebrating her too. Journey, the rock band, the American rock band, Neil Sean, legend. It was wonderful. It was over at the Chase Center, and it was for a free Winter Wonderland concert for the Bay Area residents. Um, and we're talking about legends here. Like the Journey, the band, like they're legendary. So it was just kind of like being starstruck.
Yeah.
But he was so cool to work with. Everyone was cool. Everything was, well coordinated. We played a lot of his music. Again, it was transcribed, with his band along with San Francisco Philharmonic. So we got to play transcriptions of his work with his band. And then because it was like Winter Wonderland, we were able to like interject some Tchaikovsky in there from like his Nutcracker Suite, Sleeping Beauty. And anyone that knows me knows that I'm a big Tchaikovsky fan. I'm a big Tchaikovsky scholar. That's why I was in Russia. I wrote my master thesis on him. So it was wonderful to have Journey rock band, but weave that with Tchaikovsky. Like who does that? We do that. And it was cool, because you have like the rock band crowd, then you have the Tchaikovsky, classical crowd, and they're all together and they're all like, yeah, awesome, right? Come on.
Yes.
And then Andre Nicotina is the rapper. We've done one big project with him. It was called Symphony #2 Reimagined. So it was like his music, his rap music, rearranged for the orchestra for us. And it was multi-sensory in that above the orchestra was this big screen, and it was all these different images of things that he loves and appreciates in life. And then on the sides of the hall walls were up there was like a light show projection that was like, in sync with the music that we were playing on stage. So it was like visuals, it was sound, it was light show, and it was just like
A multi-sensory
yeah,
experience.
yeah, it was really incredible. And then, you had again, the symphonic world, meets the rap, crowd all under one roof, enjoying one beautiful evening of music and art, and it was for everyone in that room, especially for me and for my orchestra. It was special because it's different, and we want to break the norms of what an orchestra does, what it has, what it can do, and be an example of what it should be doing, which is cross-cultural stuff.
Right. You've had a lot of experiences in a relatively short amount of time. What's next for you?
It feels like it's been a really long time, but oh yeah, short time. It feels like forever. What is next for me? I have been doing a lot of motivational speaking. I just did a big keynote speech for the state of California healthcare systems of pharmacists. So it was over 1,000 pharmacists here in California. I spoke at that event, and it was amazing. I love speaking. I think my story, I've been told, is pretty unique, pretty powerful, pretty impactful. And I've learned that it's important for me to teach music. It's important for me to be a conductor. It's important for me to be on a podium and be that presence to make music. but it's also important for me to share my story and motivate others and inspire others through my journey to becoming a conductor. Because I don't have just music to give. I have so much more to give, and that's motivation and inspiration through storytelling. And so I want to really dive deep into that. I've done a lot of it. I do that for Stanford. I did that for the States. I've done that for different tech companies around here, schools. And I want to continue to do that. And aside from that, I want to continue to guest conduct. I want to continue to grow the San Francisco Philharmonic, my orchestra that I founded. We're always looking for donors and sponsors to help the financial side of the orchestra, sfphil.org. You can donate through our website. Yeah. But I really want to grow the SF Philharmonic. We've been around for 5 seasons. We lived through a pandemic. It's a beautiful orchestra with a beautiful mission. It's an orchestra for everyone. And I want to eventually, in a few years, with the SF Philharmonic, create the San Francisco Philharmonic Youth Orchestra.
Oh, that's very nice.
So that is like the big picture goal of what I want to do in the future. So a lot of motivational speaking, growing the SF Philharmonic, starting the youth orchestra, because you can't have too many of those programs in this country for kids. You want to create a lot of opportunity for kids. And yeah, just continue to guest conduct all around the world and do music, make music, and inspire people.
Very good. Well, that was just an incredible discussion. Your story is something that everyone can be inspired by.
Thank you.
And not only in music, but just the idea of starting something from scratch and making something really happen. That takes really some guts and some know-how and ingenuity.
Thank you.
So anyhow, I will wrap up this interview with Spice, with Jessica Bejarano. And I hope you listen to her for concerts and go to her website, SFO.
Yes, so you can find us at sfphil.org, sfphil.org. And my personal website is jessicabejarano.com. That's JESSICA, then my last name BEJARANO.com, jessicabejarano.com, and sfphil.org.
Great. Thank you.